Hi everyone. Welcome to GeoCurrent. If you are an American soybean farmer, the greatest threat to your livelihood is not a temporary shift in trade policy or a bad harvest. It is the reality that you have been cast as a permanent political pawn in a game where the rules are being rewritten by your largest customer. Today, we look past the headlines of multi-billion-dollar bailouts to see the structural decay of the American agricultural monopoly. We analyze why the bridge to the future currently being sold in Washington might actually be a bridge to nowhere. This is not a story about a trade war. It is a story about the systematic deconstruction of Western agricultural relevance. Let us begin with what most people notice first, the money. In early 2026, the administration announced the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program, $12 billion in taxpayer-funded relief. To the casual observers, this looked like a gesture of support. To policymakers, it looked like stabilization. But to the analysts, it looked like political subsidies. Agriculture is the strategic vulnerability sector of American politics. The soybean belt, stretching across Iowa, Illinois, and Kansas, is the foundation of the Republican electoral map. China understands this, not emotionally, but strategically. When Chinese buyers stop purchases of American soybeans, the effect is not limited to commodity prices. It ripples into rural employment, land values, credit markets, and politics. Soy, corn, cotton, and livestock are not chosen at random. They are targeted because they sit at the intersection of economics and domestic stability. These are the commodities that define the economic lifeblood of the American heartland. By squeezing these farmers, Beijing forces the American government into a cycle of permanent, expensive bailouts just to keep its own rural base from collapsing. The $12 billion is not a sign of strength. It is a measure of the cost required to keep a failing system on life support. We are told by figures like Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that a new dawn is coming. The rhetoric suggests that China is ready to return to the table with massive purchase commitments, 12 million tons here, 25 million tons there. But we must distinguish between a pledge and a shipment. In the world of high-stakes diplomacy, a pledge is often just a tool to buy time. As of this month, actual export data shows that Chinese purchases of U.S. soy are lagging at less than 5% of the promised levels. China has not issued a formal high-level confirmation of these massive purchase figures. Instead, they have mastered the art of strategic ambiguity. They offer enough hope to keep American negotiators talking, while their actual ships are loading record volumes in the ports of Santos and Paranagua. Brazil is not just a competitor anymore. Brazil has become the primary partner, leaving the U.S. as the supplier of last resort. The American farmer is waiting for a check that may never clear, while the world's largest buyer is quietly building a food system where the American Midwest simply doesn't matter. This brings us to the myth of quality. For decades, the American farmer relied on the gold standard argument. U.S. soybeans were better. They had lower moisture and higher predictability. But the reality of the 2026 market is that China cares less about premium and more about fit for purpose. For the massive crushing plants in East Asia that produce oil and animal feed, Brazilian soy is now good enough. The quality gap has closed faster than anyone in Washington predicted. In a high-volume, low-margin business like industrial farming, good enough at a lower price wins every time. The premium for U.S. quality is a relic of a monopoly that no longer exists. The machinery that harvests these crops tells a similar story of over-engineering and economic traps. The Western agricultural model is built on high-cost complexity. John Deere and New Holland represent the pinnacle of engineering, but they have engineered the American farmer into a corner. Modern tractors are now designed to meet the most punishing environmental regulations, such as Euro Stage 5. While these standards may be beneficial for the environment, they have turned the machine into a liability. The upfront cost is staggering, but the ownership cost is the real killer. Restrictive software and right-to-repair barriers mean that a simple sensor failure can paralyze a $500,000 machine during the most critical days of the harvest. The American farmer is no longer a master of his tools. He is a tenant of a technology company. He is paying a premium for complexity that adds risk but no longer guarantees a higher profit margin in a global market where prices are suppressed. China approached this problem differently. Its manufacturers did not aim to dominate the premium segment. They are building machines that provide the same outcome at a survivable cost. Companies like Lovell and YTO produce equipment that prioritizes durability and affordability, mechanical systems that can be repaired locally, machines that deliver acceptable performance at a fraction of the cost. In the markets of the developing world, a Chinese tractor is often 40 to 60% cheaper. It's mechanical, it's fixable in the field. It doesn't require a satellite link to a corporate headquarters just to clear an error code. China is exporting acceptable performance. While Western brands insist on Euro 5 standards even in markets where they're not required, China is selling the tools that the rest of the world actually needs. This is not about luxury, it is about the harsh math of survival in the global South. Inside China, the technological breakthroughs are even more radical. To de-risk their dependence on foreign grain, they are moving toward industrialized protein. We see this in the rise of the 26-story hog hotels in Hubei province. These are not farms in the traditional sense. They are biosecure factories capable of producing over 1 million pigs per year in a single location. By verticalizing production, they save land and control disease with medical-grade precision. Simultaneously, they are developing sea rice that grows in salty mudflats and farming fish in the middle of the Gobi Desert. These are not just scientific curiosities, they are a systematic effort to ensure that China never again has to rely on the American heartland to feed its people. This leads us to the final frontier, Africa. The African continent holds 65% of the world's remaining uncultivated arable land. For China, Africa represents a parallel food system. This is a geography where they can deploy their mid-tech machinery, their salt-tolerant seeds, and their autonomous drones without the baggage of Western cost structures. Under the 2025 Beijing Action Plan, China is moving its focus from infrastructure to agricultural integration. They are building the ports, the railways, and the farms to create a direct corridor of protein from Africa to Asia. Africa doesn't need Euro 5 tractors. It needs the rugged, affordable Chinese tools that can break ground where the Western model is too expensive to function. If Africa reaches even a fraction of the efficiency of the U.S. Midwest, the geopolitical leverage of the American farmer is gone forever. At this point, we need to revisit an old idea by Thomas Robert Malthus. In the 18th century, Malthus predicted that human population would eventually outstrip our ability to produce food, leading to an inevitable catastrophe. The Green Revolution of the 20th century proved him wrong through technology. But the Malthusian trap has not been dismantled, it has been relocated. The high cost of Western farming is creating a new kind of Malthusian trap, not a famine of calories, but a famine of affordability. China's strategy is the ultimate workaround. By moving production to Africa and South America and automating their internal supply, they are bypassing the high-cost Western system entirely. They are avoiding the Malthusian crisis by shifting it to a new geography and a new technological paradigm. In summary, the $12 billion bailout in the United States is a band-aid on a structural deficit. It may help with the 2026 planting season, but it does nothing to address the structural reality that the world is moving on. The American farmer is being told that trade is returning to normal, but the realist analyst knows that normal has been permanently redefined. The U.S. is being pushed into the position of a swing producer, only needed when everyone else has a bad year.
The green giant of American farming is not being defeated by a better version of itself. It is being made irrelevant by a parallel system that is cheaper, simpler, and strategically aligned with the largest buyer on Earth. The conclusion is cold. The bridge currently being built for the American farmer may lead to a shore that no longer exists. If the global food system splits into a high-cost Western tier and a low-cost Chinese-led tier, the family farm as we know it cannot survive without permanent, massive government lifelines.
The question for you is this. In a world where buyers prioritize price over premium quality and Africa becomes the new global breadbasket, what role is left for the American heartland? Can Western agriculture innovate its way out of this cost trap, or have we already seen the peak of American agricultural power? I look forward to your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. This is GeoCurrent, signing off.